Is it compromising or being a pushover? Is it compromise, being flexible, or being a pushover? Sometimes when there's issues of emotional things, mental issues that aren't quite fully resolved, like say after a long breakup of a few years, and let's say somebody accidentally got into another relationship too quick, there are lines of where being a pushover and not standing up for their needs and wants, their boundaries aren't clear, and they take it as being flexible or compromising, because being flexible and compromising is needed in any and all kinds of relationships, whether lovers, friends, work, whatever. But when there's emotional hurts or unresolved issues, however you want to label it, things of the mind where the emotions got tangled up and did not get untangled. So anyways, let's delve into True Love Guideline number 9 and number 10. True Love Guideline number 9 comprehends that attitude can be far more important than immediate results. Firstly, any kind of relationship is not solely defined by immediate results, and challenges are a part of life and are almost always unexpected. Therefore, individuals with intentional can-do attitudes are more likely to start searching out and creating solutions to problems and obstacles right away, and less likely to get overly discouraged by setbacks. They most generally move forward until they get some desired results. Attitude is a crucial factor in determining success. People who cultivate a good attitude daily are more patient and willing to work diligently because they recognize that success takes time. It is important to note that a bad attitude in agreement is a red flag, indicating an ill will. People who have good attitudes rarely take offense to adversity. Lastly, a good attitude does not mean being happy in all situations. Just because there are no signs of possibly reaching a goal, and no one can see or think of any plausible means of achieving the desired results, doesn't mean that there aren't any. There is always one, if not an infinity of solutions. Comprehends that attitude can be far more important than immediate results. Attitude. Okay, let's say if I was a person who doesn't have clarified boundaries, and let's say I was messed up emotionally and I couldn't clarify what my needs and wants were, and let's say I was damaged by abandonment issues. And one of the symptoms of being damaged by abandonment issues is letting people walk all over you, going way above and beyond to give everybody, people pleasing is what they call it nowadays. People pleasing. So just because someone seems to be okay with something doesn't mean that they are. And there's very little subtle clues that can be seen in the early stages of friendship, relationships. But they can only be hid so long. They can only be covered up and smoothed over for so long before the blow-ups or the shutdowns. It usually goes one of the two ways. It's either too far to the blow-ups or too far to the shutdowns. It's got to be somewhere in the middle, and it usually doesn't fall anywhere in the middle. If those type of hurts are not healed or addressed. And it can be tricky identifying whether they're fresh wounds or something that's been going on for years or whatever. I mean, people are so complex. I'm complex. You're complex. We're all so freaking complex. It's just an unbelievable amount of data to crush or crunch through. My God, it's like we are the most complex things on this planet. All right, let's take a look at where are we at? Number 10. Let's take a look at number 10. True Love Guideline number 10. Has arguments continue until an agreement of some kind without ill will can be reached. Can be reached. I'll read that again. Disagreements are an inevitable part of life because people cherish different beliefs, values, and opinions. Therefore, empathy is not to try what's effective, and in doing so puts oneself in the other's shoes, and only then they have an understanding for finding ways to bridge their differences. It is in the approach to disagreements, when the desire to find common ground where individuals are met with honor becomes genuine, and people feel their opinions are being honestly considered in a way that feels they can proceed without fear of rejection, then and only then they're likely open to compromise. The sense of safety and community increases because they have considered multiple ideas and perspectives to know that there's more than one path to success. Lastly, in approaching the table with a demeanor of "I'm here to validate and add to," rather than a dismissal of current beliefs, this can be key in disarming the kind of argumentation that is potentially a shutdown to all communication, leading to a kind of blaming and fault finding that are extremely damaging. So if we think about this other end of the spectrum, where there is ill will, aka a bad attitude towards the situation, I actually think that's actually even better to identify what's going on and to work at it from that angle than the one who gives like a good attitude or the flatline attitude where you can't really tell if they're on board or off board or what. So, considering what kind of relationship this is, looking at this kind of guideline, or what context it is it in a work context, friends, new friends, family, or is it in a lover's context? Because each one of those, looking at it through this lens of these guidelines, is going to govern of what should be done or not done. But I do know one thing. One goal is one standard to reach for is the ability to hang on. I kind of lost my train of thought. Believe it or not, I'm actually learning my own writing. This is also new to me, these guidelines and stuff. Anyways, let's see. When individuals are met with an honor that becomes genuine and people feel their opinions are being honestly considered in a way that feels they can proceed without fear of rejection, then and only then are they likely open to compromise. See that right there? It's like creating that safe space. See, that has to be built. Doesn't matter if the person has emotional disorders or PTSD or whatever, just everyone needs this. That's got to be in place first. And without that, yeah, it's pretty much a no-go. People won't open up. And it's even more so with people who have been hurt excessively. And the way this chapter ends, well, it's actually not a chapter, they're just like one page on each guideline. But the way this ends, like this, the way this closes, this can be key in disarming the kind of argumentation that is potentially a shutdown to all communication, leading to the kind of blaming and fault finding that can be extremely damaging. That right there, my God, it's like if you're dealing with someone who is like that, who is that volatile and that toxic or that hurt. Toxic is just a generic word for me. That's just like a label that labels. It's a broad spectrum of hurts where people are hurt. And those things manifest as toxic because toxic means it's not moving, it's not working, it's stagnant. And as it stays that way, it becomes sickened. So, to look at these guidelines, it's like when you getting in further into these guidelines, now that we're into 9 and 10, looking at it from that point of view, if you're having to really use 9 and 10, then you know you're dealing with some serious issues. You know there's some serious hurts there. You know there's some things that need to be healed, addressed and healed. Now, assuming it's not just someone you'd be like, well, I can't mess with that, and you know that's okay, because we don't have the emotional power and mental power to help anybody and everybody. And I would say that's why I have a very high regard for people who work in the medical field with behavioral psychology and stuff like that, and that type of counseling, because it's like they're going like bam, 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 back to back, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, doing these psychological and emotional gymnastics. That has got to be just taxing. I don't care how strong the person is or how healthy they are emotionally and mentally. That's going to be taxing, really taxing. But for somebody like me, I can only handle so much. That's like 2 years ago when I realized how fragile I had become and how emotionally weak I had become, to where my intellect kept growing, but my emotional facilities kept falling. Not cool. Not cool at all. No way. But anyways, I had realized, I'd come to the shocking realization, it's like I literally had to make a list and choose the people that I could have in my circle that I could deal with, and then start working at it from there to see where the cap is, so that way there are no blow-ups and shutdowns that I create in other people. Not so much as me, but what I potentially would create in other people or to make happen. And that's not the goal. I mean, it's just unbelievable how, if emotions are that far out of whack in myself or in other people, just the wrong handful of hateful words can cut so deep that could last for years, if not a lifetime. And looking at my life and myself, I realize, words are just extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. So, well, that's 15 minutes. We're going to have to go just a second over. So anyways, if you are reading into this book and stuff like that, then you probably know what I'm talking about when it comes to dealing with people who have post-traumatic stress disorders and things like that, emotional immaturities, and then you know. You see, the crazy thing about this is, like, when you have loved ones, family members and stuff, I don't think a person really actually truly ever fully gives up on your own flesh and blood. There's always going to be like some little bitty glimmer of hope. It's not like someone else that you're not related to, or someone you've only had a relationship with a few years or several years, to where you could actually let a betrayal be a betrayal, whether it's a real one or not. So anyways, that concludes tonight's reading of Volume 1, The True Love Papers. And this will probably not be the exact manuscript that goes into print or published, but it'll be very, very similar, most likely. So anyways, having said that, have a good one, and see you in the funny papers.